What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in for another awesome episode of Two Car Garage. Really excited. We're working on our 1974 Yamaha DT250, our vintage two-stroke Enduro dirt bike. It is going to come out awesome, but we have to fix everything. So we have to hook up everything. Like the engine's in it, but nothing's hooked up. Everything is here, but nothing's there. It was worked on a lot in the past, but I don't know what was messed up, right? So remember, our game plan is this. We're going to make sure that the bike has spark and can run. So that's going to involve doing the whole timing procedure, making sure the ignition coil is good, the wire, the spark plug, pulling the carb, making sure the carb is decent and running good, and then we'll start pulling all the electronics and simplifying all the electronics as well. So let's dig in and start assessing the timing situation and how we're going to deal with that. So here's our magneto. Looks like it's in pretty good shape. And then we have our coils and points behind it. Now, because this is a coil points condenser system, we should be able to strip the entire electronic system from this bike. Remember, it came with a battery, headlight, tail light, has a flasher relay for signals. The DT250 was like a road version, right? Like a modern dual sport almost. The MX250 and the MX line was more of an off-road ready version without lights or anything like that. So a lot of people convert from one to the other and back again and stuff. Either way, we should be able to strip this bike down to just the bare essentials. And the main essentials is pretty much just this black wire. These two coils, the small one on the left is the lighting circuit. This right one is the ignition circuit. So the ignition coil, the lighting coil. The black wire should come right off of this ignition coil, and we should be able to run this right to our main ignition coil for the spark plug. So it'll be pretty easy, hopefully, and we should be good. But for now, we're going to have to look at these points, test to make sure that the points are okay, the coil is okay, and see if we're anywhere close to being in time. Okay, I have the timing set close enough for now, at least, just so that we can check for spark, make sure that everything's working okay. The ignition coil tested poorly, however, I'll still test it now. So the plan is just to hook up our magneto straight to the coil, put our spark plug on the other side of the coil, and then see if we get anything when we kick it. Let's try. Yeah, as I expected, with the coil, I'm not getting anything. Looks like it is the original one from the bike, so not too surprising. Just to clear up some space, I just happened to pull the intake filter, and looky what we have here. So we have this uni-foam filter, and it didn't adapt to the size correctly, so they have an adapter. Looks like they installed a piece of plumbing grade PVC into it to make it fit. So we're going to be getting a new filter. So now that the timing is rough set and I'm waiting on an ignition coil to come in before we can start the bike, let's check the compression of it first. So the procedure to compression test a bike is to hook it up in the spark plug hole and then crank it, or in this case kick it with the throttle wide open a few times until the needle reaches as high as it's going to go. And then this gauge holds the needle in its highest spot, so then you can go look to see what it is. Let's see what it came out to. As you can see, looks like it's about 130, 140, somewhere right around there, so that is perfectly acceptable. And just like that, I got the universal ignition coil in the mail. So here it is. It doesn't mount exactly right, like the holes are a little bit too small for the screws, and I'll only be able to get one in. Now in the past I've only mounted it with one screw, and honestly it's been fine, but because this isn't my bike, I won't take creative liberties like that, so I'll just make a little extendo piece of metal to mount it up in both locations. Okay, I have the new ignition coil hooked up. I hooked up that little tab thing so that I actually have two mounting points. I installed a new spark plug wire. It came with a wire, but I've always found that the wires that come with these cheaper universal ones are always kind of stiff and don't really feel all that quality. So I had some extra wire and an extra spark plug boot left over from an old project. I think the brand is Dynatech, so it's a good brand. So I just wired that up. We have the old spark plug in, and we will check for spark. Well, now that I know I have spark and I'm waiting just to clean out and adjust the carburetor, I can start stripping all of the electronics, all of the wiring. Remember, this is the DT250 in contrast with the MX250, which was like pure off-road motocross. The DT, tail light, signals, headlight, it had a battery and charging system. So we need to get rid of pretty much all of it. I'm going to keep the 4 wires coming from the magneto for now and just run a jumper wire to the ignition coil like I have. But other than that, let's start simplifying it down and just stripping the electronics. Turn signal flasher. Here's the oil tank. Tail light. The rear brake switch. Gauges and ignition switch. Left handlebar control switch. Complete wiring harness that was mangled with orange electrical tape and spliced who knows where with who knows what. Speedometer cable. Tachometer cable. The last thing I want to do as far as like prep work goes and stuff is to take off these headlight brackets. So we just need to pull one of the forks down through the upper triple and then they'll just slide right off. The headlight brackets are off. Let's see how the bike looks stripped down. This thing is starting to look like a dirt bike now, which is awesome. Now that we stripped the wiring harness, we stripped the oil tank, we pretty much took everything off, right? The next step is to get the carburetor sorted, cleaned, and set the timing absolutely perfect so that next time we can hopefully get this thing started and then start building it into an off-road machine from there. So as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Two Car Garage as we build our vintage Yamaha Enduro behind me. Be sure you stay tuned for next week. Go back and watch and smash the like button on other episodes if you didn't already do it. Thanks.